week 21, and this is your Sharp Squares podcast. I'm Eric Glazer. I am joined by Greg Roth, of course, the ambassador, Dave Eby, and we're actually going to get a guest appearance from the professor, Elon Weismark. We had a interesting week last week. This week, I'm going to tell you guys, we got a ton of information. We got trends for you. We got handicapping highlights for both games. We got a professor pick of the week at the end of the show as well. So a lot of content for all of you here. Chris Deester and a lot of the guys, the ambassador, everyone worked really hard on all this stuff. So let's get right into it. Last week, our Sharps in aggregate went 55.2%. We had no medal games, so 0 for 0 for the medal games. Now, the algorithm went 2 for 2, and we're going to count that as a record because, truthfully, Greg and I actually went 3-1 in our pool because we made a change last week. We were getting only, for that Lions game, folks, we were only laying 5.5 versus the 6.5 that we were laying on DraftKings, which gave the Bucks the pick. So 5.5 with the algorithm and the line adjustment, flipped it over to the Lions. We did win that, but we didn't announce it. So we're going to count that as 2-2. We'll count it as a loss. Even though it does help us, we are in first place in our playoff pool. So for the season, we are the Sharps, 53.5%. Medal game still at 57.6%. No change there. And for me and Greg, we are at 56.1%, which is essentially our pick 5 plus our playoff picks. All right, lots to cover. We have got 2 games, and there is some awards to be given out, unlike last week. And to tell you all about that is everyone's favorite fellow degenerate, the Greg Roth.
Eric, thank you so much. Championship week. Very exciting. Last week, of course, as you noted, there were no medal games. But this week, only 2 games. There is a medal game, I'm happy to report. And it's silver. The pick is the San Francisco 49ers. We're using our pool line, just to be clear, our pool line, our playoff pool line, which is -6.5. Of course, they're hosting the NFC Championship game against the Detroit Lions. I'm going to give you all the Sharps who picked both sides and the lines in which they picked them. Cleve TA at -7, Adam Chernoff at -7, Kelly Stewart at -7, the Whale Capper at -7, Gil Alexander at -7, Marco D'Angelo at -7. They all picked San Francisco. There was dissent on the Detroit Lions from Mike Lombardi at +7.5 and Ross Tucker at +7. There were no other.
But we're just going to say, line right now at the time we're recording is San Francisco -7.5.
So that's your medal game for championship week. It's the San Francisco 49ers. It's silver. The AFC Championship game did not medal, but our system, as it did last week for all 4 games, the algorithm had made a pick, and it is the Kansas City Chiefs. They're +3.5, of course, traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Tommy the Hitman at +3.5. Ross Tucker at +3.5. RJ Bell at +3.5. And Scott Seidenberg at +3.5. All picked Kansas City. In dissent, Mike Lombardi and Marco D'Angelo picked the Ravens. Both of those picks were at -3.5. So, Eric, San Francisco silver, Chiefs non-medal pick. What's the current line, by the way, just to clarify on the Chiefs game, since you did that for San Francisco?
3.5 right now as we're recording. So that line's still stable, and the other line obviously has moved. Everyone's playing San Francisco. Incidentally, not that this is relevant, but I'm going to say it anyway. The San Francisco game seems way too easy. It seems like, how could the Lions cover this? Which usually means it's not going to happen. I just feel like this is like that. I know you don't necessarily agree with me, but I just feel like this seems way too easy. So I'm suspicious. I may actually hedge a little bit, but we'll see.
Well, I would just say to that, like, one thing that I think we've learned doing this show, how valuable the lines are. And when I looked at this line early in the week and I was wondering, what are our Sharps going to pick? I don't have no idea until we do this show. I thought to myself, I would take San Francisco at -6.5, and I would take Detroit at +7 or +7.5. And of course, all of those lines might be actionable by kickoff.
All right, we've got a ton of trends that we collected between Sam Haldeman and Greg did a lot of work. We have them all organized for you, and then we have some handicapping. All right, so if all you were looking for the picks, you are now dismissed. If you want to hang on for a lot of content, here we go. I'll start us off from VSiN. We're going to talk about ATS versus straight up, folks. This is the category. ATS versus straight up from VSiN. They provided a ton of stuff this week. Host teams are 16-4 straight up and 13-7 ATS. That's 65%. That's in conference championship play over the last 20 years, with both the Chiefs and Eagles beating the point spread in their games a year ago. The outright winner, which has been a trend throughout the playoffs, and I know Greg will talk about, it's also was a big trend during the college football games. Outward winner has covered the point spread in all but 6 of the last 44 games. That means the straight up winner is 86.4% in conference championship playoff games. So the last 44 conference championship games, 22 years, I think I'm doing my math right, 86.4% ATS for the straight up winner. Beware, though, of large home favorites in these games, at least in terms of laying the points. If the closing line is 7 points or more, the favorite is 12-6, but only 6-12 ATS. What? Crazy. That's since 1999. The favorite, 12-6 straight up, but then goes completely flying in the face of that trend until the earlier 6-12 ATS since 1999. Conversely, hosts favored by less than 7 points are not only 17-5 straight up, but 15-7 ATS. That's 68.2%.
These trends also from VSiN, guys, this is based on playoff experience. Since the 2004 season, playoff experience has meant a great deal to championship hosts. In fact, home teams that were in the playoffs the prior year are on a 23-7 straight up and 18-12 against the spread, 60% run, including 8-2 straight up and 6-4 against the spread. That's 60% versus teams that weren't in the playoffs the prior season. That says play San Francisco. Number 1 seeds have been host teams in 45 of the last 62 conference championship games and have gone 31-14 straight up and 24-21 against the spread. That's 53.3% in those games. Number 1 seeds are at a 9-2 straight up and a 7-4 against the spread surge. That's 63%, by the way, in conference championship games when hosting any team worse than a number 2 seed, applicable here for the 49ers.
And I've got a totals trend for y'all. Overall, since 1993, the over in the conference championship games is 35-26-1, which is 57.4%. But there's been a stark difference between conferences recently. The last 12 AFC games are 8-4 to the under, which of course is 66.7%. While NFC contests are on a 14-7-1 trend to the over the last couple of decades. Now from Evan Abrams at Bet Labs, we've got the wagon effect. Teams after facing the Buffalo Bills are 24-41-1 against the spread, 37% over the last 4 years, and 5-11-1 against the spread in 2023. In the last 3 seasons, teams are 3-14 against the spread. That's 18% after beating the Bills, failing to cover by 6 points per game. Finally, teams to beat Josh Allen in the playoffs are 0-4 straight up in their next game.
Wowza. From the Dream Preview, this is from AJ Hoffman. Harbaugh has been the best coach in the NFL in the first half. He's 160, 110-9 in the first half. With Lamar, he's 51, 28-2, and this season he is 11-7. From Scott Seidenberg from the Dream Preview, Patrick Mahomes is 8-3 straight up in his career as a dog. He is 5-0 ATS as a dog, up more than 3 points. And over the last 20 years, the Super Bowl winning QBs when a dog in the playoffs are, drumroll please, 59, 24-2 against the spread. Also, Lamar Jackson is 7-16 against the spread over the last 3 years when he is north of a field goal favorite. Andy Reid has coached against Lamar now 4 times. Work with me on this. Lamar is 35-6 straight up when facing a coach for the first time. That's 22-19 ATS, so almost 500. But when he faces a coach for the second time, 26-16 straight up, 24-18 against the spread.
From RJ Bell Dream Preview, the Detroit Lions, they're a different team on turf versus grass. On grass, against the spread, they're 7-5. On turf, 29-12 against the spread with a plus 2.5 point differential. From Scott Seidenberg, also the Dream Preview, the 49ers are 12-1 straight up and 10-3 against the spread when Debo starts and finishes the game. I think he's still questionable unless I missed some news today. It's Friday afternoon while we're broadcasting this. They are 1-4 straight up or 0-5 against the spread when he either does not play or doesn't finish the game. And then Jared Goff, 11 games outdoors with the Lions. He's 5-1 straight up and 6-5 against the spread.
Here we go. Handicapping highlights for the 2 games. Chiefs plus 3.5 at the Ravens. The theme here is KC is peaking. RJ Bell from the Dream Preview says Kansas City is playing its best offense of the season right now. And even though they don't have the receivers they used to, they have at least one good receiver with Rashid Rice, and Kelsey seems rejuvenated. Scott Soderberg adds Mahomes in games versus Baltimore has over 350 passing yards in each game, 3-1 straight up. His only loss was a 36-35 game. However, Kansas City spy linebacker William Gay is injured, and that could be a blow to limiting Lamar. Here's something. Pay attention to this. I don't know if there's anything here. I'll let you guys be the judge. The referee for this game is Sean Smith. He's the 6th best referee for road teams in the NFL. But the Ravens are actually 6-1 straight up, 3-4 ATS with Smith. At home with Smith, the Ravens are actually 2-0 ATS. There's a strong conspiracy theory going around that it would be great for the NFL, a gold mine, says Scott, if Taylor Swift was attending the Super Bowl. So take that for what it is worth. The Hitman from Forward Progress says the handicap on KHC has to be, do you think what they've done the last 2 weeks is the new Chiefs, or do you think you go off their priors where they struggled all year? He's going with the former. Kansas City won by 3 points versus Buffalo, but they dominated the stats. 0.48 EPA per dropback, only 5 third down attempts in the entire game. Thinks this is the most complete team the Chiefs have had in the Reid-Mahomes era. And on the other side, Baltimore is first in points allowed per drive, which of course is not good. Adam Chernoff from Right Angle Sports has a short and sweet handicap. Kansas City has a phenomenal defense, the best quarterback in the league, and the offense is playing at its peak. And you don't bet against Reid and Mahomes getting points in the playoffs. Ross Tucker adds from Even Money that Baltimore struggles in the playoffs while KC elevates to another gear. He thinks the game is a toss-up, so he's going to go with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes getting 3.5 points. In dissent, Mike Lombardi from the GM Shuffle says that this should be a back-and-forth game, and Lamar is going to be a problem if the Chiefs tackle like they did last week. The Chiefs D played 76 plays last week, and they only ran 47 on offense. The Chiefs will have a hard time stopping the Ravens' run game. Timestamps, bet on it, 2 minutes, 40 seconds. GM Shuffle, 45 minutes, 50 seconds. Forward Progress, 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Even Money, 19 minutes, 9 seconds. And the Dream Preview, 58 minutes, 50 seconds.
All right, Eric, in the NFC Championship game, it's the 49ers favored by 7. That is the official pick. The theme, almost no one thinks the Lions will keep it going. Kelly Stewart from Wager Talk doesn't know if she fully trusts this team, meaning the 49ers. But to her, Marco made a lot of sense in his handicap, and she trusts his handicap. So what did Marco have to say, you ask? Well, he said he loves to take a good team that had a major scare the game before, and you can't have any more of a scare than San Francisco had against Green Bay. The 49ers should have lost that game, so they're playing with house money now. As for Detroit, it's been a great story, but the clock has to strike midnight at some point for Cinderella, and that is going to happen this week, he says. Detroit's defense has been terrible. Tampa Bay and the Rams had 400 yards each on offense. And talking about the quarterbacks specifically, Baker Mayfield had 319 passing yards last week. Stafford had 357 the week before, 359 for Mullins, and the Vikings before that, 374 in the first meeting between those two teams. And then Dak had over 300 yards when the Cowboys play Detroit. Detroit is not playing at home, and Marco doesn't trust the Lions' defense. Finally, Jared Goff will be looking across the line of scrimmage and have flashbacks from when he was with the Rams and losing to the 49ers. Whale Capper from Matchbook likes the 49ers and says they will get their 30 points. It's a matter of whether the Lions keep up, and he doesn't think they can. Lions need to get pressure. If they do, that could spell trouble for Purdy. Purdy is also masterful at picking up the blitz, which the Lions do a lot. There will be explosive plays and yards after the catch on the Niners' side. Lions defense says the Whale Capper won't be able to put the 49ers in a bottle and contain them. If the pass protection holds up, the Lions can hang in there, sure. They are on the road, but there are key injuries to the offensive line. The Lions will run the ball and set up the passing game. The cover at +7 comes if the Niners defense slows the Lions offense, which the Capper expects them to do. Because the 49ers struggled last week and the Lions played well, it's a cheap -7, he says. For the set, we go to Ross Tucker at the Even Money podcast. He says that the Lions offense is obviously not as good outside, but he's not sure what to think about Purdy and the San Francisco offense. He's impressed by Detroit's resiliency. He's not impressed by San Francisco, and he thinks they should have lost to Green Bay. He makes the Lions +7 a best bet for 1 unit. If it was 7.5, which it is currently, he'd bet 2 units. And finally, from the GM Shuffle, Michael Lombardi also the sense in this game. He leans to Detroit +7.5. Everyone throws on the Lions, as we already pointed out, and he would take the points plus the 49ers win. Timestamps, Right Angle Sports, 20 minutes and 33 seconds. Matchbook, 22 minutes and 17 seconds. Even Money, 21 minutes and 39 seconds. Bet on it, 28:05. And GM Shuffle, 50 minutes and 2 seconds.
Well, that was a lot of whale cover, by the way. Hats off or shout out to my boy Jeff Google. I'm sure he's very excited to hear that. Well done. So, guys, we started this a couple of playoffs ago. We got one of our producers. We nicknamed him the Professor, Professor Chaos, Elon Weisbark. He takes a lot of the handicaps that we get from all the notes. He puts them together for his favorite prop based upon the information that we have from the notes. We have not heard this, so we're super excited to hear it. So, for the first official time, I think, this season, let me introduce you all again to Professor Chaos.
Prepare, little town. Prepare for the greatest supervillain you've ever seen, Professor Chaos!
Thanks, guys. I'm back. Here's the bet. Patrick Mahomes, anytime touchdown, +650, available on FanDuel. First off, it's the playoffs, and nothing matters more than winning, so we know Mahomes is willing to make plays with his feet if needed. Stuckey from the Action Network mentioned that both defenses are among the best in the NFL, and that it will be hard for the Chiefs to get Kelsey involved against the Ravens linebackers. If Mahomes can't get the ball to his favorite targets, we know he won't shy away from running the ball. According to Fabian Suma, the Chiefs have offensive line issues, so time in the pocket will be hard to come by. Hitman bet the over on his yards at 24.5. Steve Fezzik got it at 25.5, but now that number's climbing up into the upper 20s and not worth touching that. Mahomes has a rushing touchdown, though, in 1 out of every 3 playoff games that he's played in his career, and we're getting this bet at +650. This is the Professor pick of the week. Anything up to 5-1. I love it. This is Patrick Mahomes, anytime touchdown, +650 available on FanDuel. I expect all of my Sharp Squares producers to invest with me.
Now, the Professor is not sharp, and neither are any of us who put together this show. But this is your Sharp Squares podcast.
Good luck out there.